Hey there. Thanks so much for being here. This is Arriane Alexander, and this is Rock Your Life. And 2020 has been amazing, said no one ever. 2020 is kind of been a shit show, right? So I think everyone's gone through their fair share of challenges this year, and especially we're coming up on the holidays. And I know so many of you are not able to be with your families for the holidays because of this global pandemic. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to have an episode all about gratitude. And I'm not talking about like cheesy, like, I'm so grateful for my life. No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm going to dive in and give some really personal experiences of my own shit shows of life and explain how gratitude actually works and how you can really make the best of your life in having deep gratitude for life and everything it brings you. Okay, this might sound very confusing right now, but I'm going to clear up everything and you're going to hear some very juicy details of my life that I don't reveal very often. But the deal is, as the host of Rock Your Life, my commitment to you is to be authentic and honest, because that is the key to connection in life. And one of the stories that I'll tell you about in my life that happened a few years ago that was awful really showed me that authenticity and honesty and communication is just the key to loving each other and making the best of things. So we're going to dive right in. And I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology. Now, what does that mean? I look at life through a spiritual lens. And what I have found is that when I look through the lens of life, that everything is for my highest good, then life looks different. So what happens is you walk through life with a point of view of what life looks like and what you think life is. And most people walk through life in, let's call it a victim mentality, where it's like, I'm upset because, and fill in the blank. I'm upset because I don't have a boyfriend. I'm upset because my boyfriend needs to change. I'm upset because I don't have enough money. I'm upset because I work too much. I'm upset because there's traffic. Like, we can think of 8,000 things to be upset about. And most people walk through life looking through the lens that they're upset about the thing or the person. Okay. So think about in your life, because, I am a coach. I'm a business and life coach. And so when I'm sharing this on the radio show with you, I really want you to put yourself in the shoes of what I'm speaking about and see where this shows up in your life. So do you have an area of your life where you're upset with someone, where you're upset with a person or a thing or an event? And maybe it's COVID, maybe COVID is the thing that you're mad at and you're upset about, or maybe it's someone in politics. Like there's so many choices out here. So we all get upset about things because we're human beings. So the key is to really shifting your point of view, that it's never about, the upset is never about the other person or the event or the thing. That's just the trigger for something inside of you. Like, there's a boundary that's getting crossed. There's an expectation that's getting crossed. There's a belief within you that someone should be different and they're not. So really what happens is these things happen in our life, and they're simply mirrors and reflections to what is actually going on inside ourselves. So whatever belief system I'm running, if it's not met in my external world, in my environment, then I'm going to be upset because I'm going to have this belief that things, should be different, basically. And so the practice that I have learned through years and years of spiritual psychology training and all the other personal development work that I've done through the years, and I'll share some of my favorite, people that I've learned from in this radio show today. But basically, the key is to really shifting that point of view that everything is for my highest good. Everything is for your highest good. Even when it seems so challenging and you seem so mad or sad or upset or whatever you're feeling, that everything is for your highest good, because life wants you to thrive. Life is supporting you. I don't know if you know this, but we are spinning through space on this thing called the Earth at like 1,000 million miles an hour. And somehow we stay on the Earth. We don't go flying off into space because we have this thing called gravity. So that's just an example of how life wants to support you. It is holding you on the earth so that you can actually live and not fly off into space. We have breath. We don't have to learn how to breathe. The breath is already here for us. We don't have to ask for sunshine. The sunshine is here every day for every single one of us. So it's really when you can take a step back from the the things that you're really upset about and sink into this point of view that everything is for my highest good, that life wants me to thrive. Life is here to support me. That's when things can really start to shift. And I'm not saying this is an easy process. I'm not saying it happens overnight. I'm just offering to you through my years of own personal experience and, 15 years of being a life coach, that when I can support my clients in shifting this point of view, that it's never, ever, ever about the other person, about the experience, about what's happening externally. It is always about what's happening within myself. What am I telling myself about the situation? What belief is getting crossed? What expectation is getting crossed? That's where I can start to do my work to soften within myself and not be in the blame game of things outside of myself. Okay? So again, I want you to just listen to my story and my stories that I'm going to tell you of my own life, and put yourself in the same shoes in whatever your situation is, and see if you're open to shifting your point of view a little bit. Because how I look at life is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay. Most people walk through life thinking we're these humans and all this is real. And then we die and we go somewhere to heaven or, whatever your belief system is. So my experience from the point of view of spiritual psychology is that's flipped. It's that we're actually spiritual beings having a human experience. So my soul, your soul, all of our souls came to this planet to be in the human form, to experience something, to experience this spectrum of life. And what is that spectrum of life? It's joy, it's happiness, it's also sadness and anger and frustration and disappointment. It's also laughter and sparkles and inspiration. And it's also dark and shadows. But that's life. Life wants us to experience the full spectrum of life. It's not just joy all the time. If you were literally just happy and joyful all day, every day, you would be bored. We all have this fantasy that's, even in a relationship, it's going to be puppies and rainbows all the time. But wouldn't we be bored? We'd be like, oh my God, I need something to spice it up. I need a little drama. So that's what life does. We get to experience all the joy and the happiness and the abundance and the awesomeness of life. And since we're spiritual beings having a human experience, we want the full spectrum of life. So we also want to experience the disappointment, the sadness, the anger, the frustrations, the shadows, because it's all the same. Life doesn't look at sadness as worse or better than happiness. Life doesn't look, the trees, the sunshine, God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't look at our emotional states as good or bad or right or wrong. It just looks at them as is. So, the sun shining down, this is what I always tell clients, is the sun shines down on you no matter what you're experiencing. And the sun doesn't shine down on this person that you're upset with. And maybe you're really mad at this person and you're like, oh God, they're just such a jerk. And I can't believe they did that. Blah, blah, blah. And maybe they did do something that was quite awful to you. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but the truth is the sun shines on all of us the same. It doesn't discern between quote bad people and quote good people. It doesn't, it's neutral. So life is always reflecting to us neutrality of how we get to experience this spectrum of life in all aspects, but it's this human form that I want to make things good and bad or right and wrong, right? That person's good, that person's bad. This experience is good, this experience is bad. But in truth, when I can start to pull back, when you can start to pull back and shift that point of view, that what if there is no good or bad? What if there is no right or wrong? What if that's your thoughts about this situation or the person? But that's, you have dominion over that. And you get to shift that if you want. You get to shift that into a compassionate, loving, neutral, graceful point of view. And then when we do that, the situation shifts. Okay. So I know you might be like, wow, this is, what is she talking about? So I'm going to give you these very clear examples in my own life of how this has come up, and you'll start to see. And don't get me wrong, when you're kind of in the shit show of your upset, it's not so easy to see, a different point of view. So what I like to do is really prepare myself with the tools to live in the different point of view, live in the neutral point of view, live in the nothing's good or bad or right or wrong as much as I can. So therefore, when the shit show does come up, I'm already prepared and I have my tools. Okay, I'm going to take a short break, absorb what I've just said. We're going to get into some juicy details of Arriane Alexander's life. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to tell you all these stories, but I think it's really going to be fun and help you. And today's a solo episode. You know, many times I have guests, but today's a solo episode, so it's all me the whole time. All right, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. And this is Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander on the Fun for Life radio station on Dash Radio Network, which I love being part of Fun for Life Radio because it really is a community that we have. There's so many great people and great shows that are involved with Fun for Life Radio. So I definitely want you to check out some of these other shows. My friends Emilio and Rachel have a great show called Relationship Renegades, where they really teach you how to have a great relationship. And they're super conscious and awesome people and have done their work to come together in a powerful way. So they have all kinds of cool guests and talk about, relationship with yourself and relationship with others. So definitely check that out. And then another show that I love is called Hollywood Unfiltered with Dana Buckler. And it's like behind the scenes of Hollywood, baby. So that's pretty sexy. All right, love, we're going to take a break and I'll see you in just a minute. And we're back with Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander. And here we go. Okay. True story. In 2017, I went into a massive depression. Okay. So how this rolls out is I'm like a super energetic, charismatic, always laughing, very happy woman. And in late 2017, I just lost my mojo. I lost my swagger. And I could not figure out what happened for basically a year. I was so tired all the time. I couldn't get out of bed. I had no motivation for my work. I mean, I'm a coach. I love what I do. But I was just like doing as little as possible. Like my business tanked because I just wasn't working. I was just not doing much of anything because I couldn't, because it was just this feeling of like, it felt like I had a lead backpack full of 100-pound weights all day long. So doing anything was an effort. I mean, going to the grocery store was an effort. Working out was certainly an effort. I still worked out, but not as much as I usually did. Working at all on my business was such an effort. And I couldn't figure out what was going on for the longest time. And I went to my doctors and I got all my blood tests, and cause I'm like, I am exhausted and I just can't do anything. And I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And all my blood tests were fine. They're all like, no, you're super healthy. You're fine. And I would literally be in my doctor's office crying my eyes out. And I'm like, I'm not fine. There is something happening. And what is it? And finally, he says, I took like a little depression test at the doctor's office, and he was like, I think you're depressed. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not depressed. I said, I'm a life coach. I'm a spiritual expert. I am a motivational person. I am happy. I am Arriane Alexander. I said, I am definitely not depressed. This does not get depressed. I mean, I was fighting. I was like, there's no way. So I tried all these natural remedies and tried, kind of working it out myself. And it was just awful. I mean, it was such an awful experience. It was like every day wondering if I should just drive my car off the road. And it was that bad. It was like life isn't worth living because it was so miserable. And I could not believe I was actually experiencing this. Me, who's just been so joyful and happy, and nothing really tragic has happened in my life. Of course, I have had, many ups and downs, but nothing tragic or awful. And it rocked my world. So it started end of 2017, and I went through all of 2018, and I call 2018 my gap year because I just have to forget it. People take a gap year after college and they go travel the world and do something fun. Well, I had a gap year, but it was not fun. It was just basically, I couldn't do anything except basically lay in bed. So it took me so long to figure out what was going on. Finally, once I did realize it was depression, I talked to my therapist. I got a new therapist. I talked to the doctors. I got on medication. I take Wellbutrin. I take it still, and it's literally saved my life. It changed my whole experience of life. And it took me a good year though to get my confidence back, because I really felt like I was taken out at the knees of my confidence when I just couldn't do anything. And I was like, wow, I just had to start over basically. And having that experience, taking so long to get my confidence back, I just kind of remember it took about a year, and I finally went, oh my God, I feel like I'm back. And this year, especially in 2020, I really feel like I'm back. I really feel like I finally got my swagger back. I got my chutzpah back. It took a while. But the point of this is depression sucks. If you've ever experienced depression, it fucking sucks. And I had no idea. So this whole episode is about gratitude. So I haven't mentioned gratitude at all in the story, because in the middle of this depression that, was a year and a half going on, I kept trying to find gratitude for it. I mean, I was like, how can I be grateful for this experience? But I felt so awful. I couldn't. I was like, there's no way. This is like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I couldn't. But what I did know is I did trust that there was something on the other side. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew that once I was through it, or as I would go through it, that something would reveal itself to me. And that trust got me through, because I couldn't find gratitude in those moments when I was like, should I just drive my car off the road? The only reason I didn't is I had a 24-year-old cat. Yes, I did say 24-year-old cat. 24, my cat was 24 when he finally passed away. And I had to give him IV injections twice a day and all these pills. And I was like, no one's going to take care of a 24-year-old cat that needs IV injections and pills all the time. So really my cat helped me hang on and helped me get through my darkest days. And any of you that have pets, you can, I'm sure, relate to this, how precious and special they are. So anyway, I couldn't see the good things during the depression because I was in it. And that's generally what happens when you're in something that's challenging. It's really hard to imagine what's on the other side because you're so in the upset around it. But I trusted there was something on the other side. So cut to when I got to the other side, I received a whole new level of empathy and compassion for the human experience. I could cry now, I'm tearing up thinking about this, because before my depression, I could not understand that level of someone's pain. I had no idea what it felt like to be in so much pain all the time and have the thoughts just be there all the time and feel so hopeless. I mean, and this is what happened during my depression is some very well-meaning friends and family would say things like, well, just think positive thoughts. Just think happy thoughts and, look forward to the next thing and that'll help. And I wanted to punch them because I was like, you don't get it. When you're in a deep, dark hole of depression, there are no happy thoughts to be found. There are no positive thoughts to be found. It is like being in a black hole with no way out. And I was shocked. I was like, how can you even say, hey, think happy thoughts and you'll get out of your depression? I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious and crazy making. But that's what I used to do when I would talk to people who were, I've been a coach for a long time and I couldn't understand that level of depression and darkness and hopelessness because I'd never experienced it. So when I would talk to people, I probably would say the same things of well, just, do some affirmations, do a vision board or whatever it would be, I'm sure I hopefully said a few more things that were more helpful than that. But, I didn't know. So on the other side of this, awful depression that I would never wish upon anyone, what came out of it was this heart, my heart cracked wide open because I had nothing left to fight for. I had nothing left. There was nothing to hide. There were no stakes anymore. There was nothing to lose. I was already in the darkest moment of my life. So and I couldn't do it myself. Like I couldn't get out of this myself, even though I tried, because I'm like Miss Independent and I can do it all myself and I'm fine. But when I finally realized I couldn't do it myself, like I could not help myself enough to get out of this depression, that I finally had to ask for help. And I finally had to tell my mom and like tell my dad and tell my brother and tell my best friends. And everyone was like, what? They're like, you're so happy. You would never have known I was in a massive depression. Okay. Cause I'm still like happy and laughing and fun and working out and, looking great. But I was like, inside I was dying. So nobody knew. But once I started having these open, honest conversations with my mom and my dad, who I didn't have a great relationship with, but we had the most beautiful, heartfelt conversation around this. And he said, yeah, he's like, I've had depression my whole life. And he's like, I think your grandpa did too. And I think his dad did too. And I was like, what? I didn't know this whole family lineage had a, history of depression. And then when I spoke to everybody else, like anyone I talked to says, oh yeah, I've gone through that too. Or, I've definitely had depression. And I mean, I didn't know everybody goes through this. I didn't know this was like a normal thing because it certainly wasn't for me. So once I started opening my heart, because it just cracked my heart wide open, because again, like I had nothing to lose, I started having these conversations with friends and family that were extraordinary, that were like these life-changing, bonding, connecting, loving conversations from the heart, because I just had to. And so from this thing called depression, I came out with a heart that is bigger, that has more empathy and compassion, that connects in a more authentic way and in a more honest way in communication. And it's lasted. I mean, I see myself now in the relationships that I have, whether it's a romantic relationship or friends, and I'm so much more open about what's going on or what I need, asking for what I need, or just enjoying the experience more and having compassion for the other person's experience. So I couldn't have gratitude while I was in the experience of depression, but on the other side, looking back in the rearview mirror, I am so grateful. I mean, even though it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I hope it never happens again, I bow down to that experience of, call it 18 months of working through this depression, because it changed my life in such a powerful way. Again, like I feel myself tearing up. I can cry thinking about it, because had I not gone through that, I would not have this depth of connection and open-heartedness and empathy and compassion that I experience on a daily basis now. So my offer to you is, when you're in challenging situations that you might not be able to see what's on the other side, but my encouragement is to trust that there is something on the other side. There's always something there for us to learn and grow from, because everything is for your highest good. Everything is for your highest good. So even in my shit show of depression, I knew it was for my highest good. Even though it sucked and it was so painful, I knew it was for my highest good, because I knew life wants to support me, and I just didn't know why this was happening and what was going to happen on the other side. But once I got to the other side, I could see it. Okay, so there's my experience that really showed me that gratitude is available to us no matter what. So I offer to you in your life, just look at your life and see where, you've had a painful or challenging situation, and where you've healed and grown from it and what you learned from it. And maybe you're in it right now. And if you're in it right now, just trust that there is something on the other side, because there always is. All right. So that's that story about gratitude and how to get there and what's on the other side. And we're going to go take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you about another experience that's crazy. So you've got to come back for that, because you're not going to believe this, but I learned so much from it too. This is Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander on the Fun for Life radio station on Dash Radio Network. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. Hi, so glad you're back. Okay, I want to tell you about two really cool shows on our Fun for Life radio station. And it's fun to build such a community with these awesome people. I'm just loving getting to know everyone that has shows on the station. So two really great music shows are the St. James Band Radio Hour, where they play such an eclectic mix of really, really cool and interesting music. So be sure to check that out. And a new show called DJ Ceviche from my friend Tiger, who is an actual, okay, DJ Ceviche, come on. Isn't that like the best name ever for a DJ? So just listen to a show based on this name. But he's a DJ. He plays all kinds of really cool mixes and all kinds of fun stuff. So listen for those shows, St. James Band Radio Hour and DJ Ceviche here on Fun for Life Radio. All right. So I told you about my depression. Good times. Now, another experience that was like a life changer for me that really showed me how I get to trust that everything is for my highest good is I got swept off my feet. I mean, baby, I got swept off my feet. I mean, this man rolls in and he's like tall and handsome and charismatic. We're just going to call him Antonio because doesn't Antonio just sound like a lover, like this, romantic lover that's going to sweep you off his feet? Yeah. Okay. So Antonio came in tall, handsome, charismatic, and very like a boss, like takes it, like walks in the room and everybody knows who he is and successful in business. And I met him one night in Beverly Hills and he was just like, "You're my lady. Like, you're my queen. Who are you? I've never met someone so beautiful and smart and funny and da-da-da." And I'm just drinking it in. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so much fun." And I'm like, "You don't have a girlfriend?" He's like, "No, I don't have a girlfriend. I just broke up with my girlfriend." And I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing." And he said, as many men are, he's like, I'm separated. Like, I'm getting a divorce. He's like, "But I'm for sure that's been a long time coming. And it's just, getting the money figured out." And that's normal. I mean, that's not unusual to have people, have long divorces basically. So that didn't bother me so much. But anyway, Antonio swept me off my feet. I mean, it was like a dream. I was like living a movie in so many ways because he whisked me off to New York City for Christmas. He was like, "I'm going to take you somewhere for Christmas." And he's like, "Where do you want to go?" And I was like, "Well, I've always wanted to spend Christmas in New York City." So he's like, "Okay, babe, we're going to New York City." So we're having a blast in New York City, walking around, looking at all the Christmas lights, going to dinner. It's like Central Park, like so much fun. And he would call me every day and we would FaceTime all the time. And he's just like, "Oh my gosh, you're you're my lady." And, eventually he was like, "I love you and I'm going to marry," he would always say this, "I'm going to marry you and I'm going to marry you." And I've really never had anyone say that to me before. So I got caught up in this fantasy of Antonio, but he kind of forgot to tell me a couple things. He kind of forgot to tell me that he was engaged. I guess that slipped his mind. I guess it didn't come up in conversation. So he just forgot to tell me he was engaged. So long story short, he lied to me from the minute I met him. He was engaged the whole time. We were traveling all over USA. We were having so much fun, doing all these cool things. And the whole time, he was engaged to somebody else. And he kept telling me he was broken up with her, and he kept telling me that she was crazy and that she was making it all up because she was like posting pictures on Instagram of her and him together, happy couple. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Is she really that crazy that they're broken up and she would really be posting pictures? Well, turns out she wasn't crazy. She was with him and they were happy. And he lied to me and told me that they were broken up. And so it's crazy making in my mind because I want to believe this person I love, right? He's lying to my face, but I don't know it. So I want to believe this person that I love. And so I'm going to believe him. But inside me, something was off. My intuition just kept saying, something is off here. Like, this isn't actually all true. But what happened was I ran through the red flags because I had an agenda. I was like, this man swept me off my feet. I'm so happy. I'm going to move to Florida and we're going to live happily ever after. And he's going to help me with my business and I'm going to help him with his business. And we're going to travel. Like, I had an agenda because I was like, this is it. Like, he's the one. So I ran my agenda and ran through the red flags. Because as I looked back, I was like, again, rear view mirror, I could see there were like 1,800 red flags that I just ran ran through 1,800 red flags because I wanted to have a relationship so bad. And I was like, well, it's going to be with him because he's perfect. Because everything, like, we just had so much fun and he was so interesting and I felt so great when I was with him. So I really lived the movie. There's a movie called The Other Woman. And I watched it one day and I go, this is my life. Because, by the end of it, I knew about her. She knew about me. She calls me and she goes, hi, this is, Pamela, and I'm Antonio's fiance. And I went, oh. And I said, well, Antonio told me he didn't have a fiance. He told me he was broken up with you for a long time. And she's like, no, I've been with him the whole time that you've been with him. And she said, he's been lying to me, telling me he's broken up with you. So we find out that he's basically playing both of us. So Pamela and I become friends, and then we're playing him because we're like, he's an asshole and he needs to get what he deserves because he totally was lying the whole time to both of us and continued to. So even one day, funny story, where I met her because she was like, by this time we'd both broken up with him because we're like, okay, he's a total douche. Like, we're done. So we met for tea and he's trying to get us both back. And so my phone is ringing and he's texting me, leaving me a message. I love you, baby. I can't live without you. You're my queen. I want you back. And I wouldn't answer. And then he'd call her and text her the same message. Baby, you're my queen. I'm broken up with her. I love you. I want you back. I mean, it was crazy making. This man was, it's called a sociopath because like he lies. Just everything out of his mouth was a lie. Okay. So that finally ended. Thank goodness. But it took a while because I was already hooked in. My heart was like with this person and it took a long time to get out to get out of it. And when I got out of it finally, I was pissed because I was like, I was lied to so hard for so long and I didn't know I was being lied to. But I also had to look at my own experience and see how if I would have really been intuitive and and I'm a detective, when people tell me things and they don't add up, like I know immediately. And I knew immediately that things didn't add up with him, but I had an agenda. I wanted to be in relationship with him. I wanted to travel with him. I wanted him to take care of me. Like he swept me off my feet. I was like, oh, he's Prince Charming. Okay, cool. Good. This is what I've always wanted. So sweep me off my feet and I'll just deal with all the bullshit and I'll believe the lies and we're good. So I had to look at my part in it. And this is what this episode is all about I could easily say, I'm upset because Antonio lied to me. Okay. I'm not saying lying's cool. I'm not a big fan of it, but I have to look at my own belief systems around it, my own expectations, my own judgments on lying, and really look at myself. I'm like, well, have I ever lied? Probably 80,000 times or more in my life. I mean, little lies when I was younger, probably big lies. Mom's like, did you drink in high school? Maybe she was like, did you drink last night? No, I didn't drink. No, whatever it is. Like I've lied a lot, probably. So have you. We all have, again, whether they're white lies, big lies, small lies, like people lie. And so it's my opportunity to release the judgments on Antonio and release my beliefs and expectations because I had a belief that he was my man. I had an expectation that he was going to be my man and he was going to show up and be full of integrity and honesty and authenticity. That was my expectation, but that was mine. It wasn't his. So I had to go within. I mean, I was mad and then I was sad. I went through all these things. I was so sad because I was like, this fantasy was broken. This fantasy of Prince Charming. He busted my fantasy. He killed my fantasy and I was fucking pissed. And then I was fucking sad. Have you ever had that happen where you're with someone and then they, quote, fall from grace and then you're mad or you're sad, but it's only because they busted your fantasy because you just had a fantasy running about what it could have been or should have been and they didn't live up to it and then you made it about them. Have you ever done that? I have. So it's easy. It would be so easy for me to be like, oh my God, Antonio, blah, blah, blah. He's such an asshole, blah, blah, which of course I did. But I didn't stay in that long because I was like, yes, he could have made different choices. Yes, that was not cool. But it was my expectation that he should be different when he's just doing what Antonio does. That's just what he does. He like sweeps women off their feet and then moves on to the next one, basically. So I had to go in and look at my own judgments, my own belief systems, my own expectations, and still trust that everything is for my highest good. Because when I walk through life with the point of view that everything is for my highest good, then I can see that everything is for my highest good. Okay. So this experience with Antonio, that was probably it might be the most important relationship I've ever had in a romantic sense with a man in my adult life, because I learned so much. So again, when I was in it, it was hard to see the other side. I mean, how could I see anything good when he fucking lied about everything? And just, it rocked my world. It's like gaslighting when someone lies to you and then you feel like the crazy one. That was what happened, because he was lying to me. So then I felt like I was crazy because I was intuitively knowing things were off. And I was seeing this Instagram of his fiance, and yet he was lying to me. So it made me trust my own intuition. I mean, it made me distrust my intuition. It made me question my intuition. It made me question my reality of the world. And that's a really unbalanced place, okay? Because it took me a long time to get my intuition back, because I had denied my intuition for so long with him. Because I knew he was lying on some level, but I just overrode my intuition and was like, no, he's not, where he was. So does that make sense? Like, I had to really take a long time to build that intuition back. But I really trusted that it was all for my highest good. Again, I didn't know why or how or when I was going to see it, because it was so painful to be in it. But on the other side, what happened was, again, I got to see where I got to take ownership and responsibility, where I ran through the red flags and I had an agenda. And I have seen myself do that time and time again with men. When I have an agenda, I can very sweetly manipulate the situation to get what I want. That's not cool. I don't want to be that person. But I wouldn't have seen it. I wouldn't have known it if it wasn't like in my face with Antonio, because I couldn't figure out, like, why was I staying with him? Why was I hooked in? Why did I still love him? And it's because I was like, eye on the prize. I'm going to move to Florida and get married, and we're going to live happy after. We're going to travel, la, 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 la. I got whatever this fantasy I had in my head. And then my fantasy got busted. So I had to look at myself. And the gift and the gratitude I have is that I got to take full responsibility for me running my agenda. I got to take full responsibility of me running a fantasy that was simply a fantasy on someone that had no idea I was running a fantasy on him. I had to take responsibility for my false belief that I actually loved him, or because you can't ever actually love another person. You can only love the image of them. We can't ever really know somebody fully because we're all so deep and individual. Like, I can't know anybody. You can't know me. There's so much in my mind and depth, and why would you want to know all of me? Like, it's a lot. But basically, we can't ever love another human because I'm only loving you through my projection of you, through my image of you, through my expectations of you, of my beliefs of you. So I'm only looking at you through my lens. And that's where this point of view comes in, that everything is for your highest good and everything is here. Life wants you to experience this spectrum of joys and happiness and greatness, and then sadness and anger and frustration, because life looks at that as neutral. So with Antonio, when I really saw that I wasn't seeing him at all. I was seeing my projection of him. I was seeing my fantasy of him. I was projecting my fantasy onto this person that could never meet my fantasy. And then I got upset when he couldn't meet my fantasy. Do you see how fucked up that is? I had the fantasy and the projection of what our life was going to be like, and I put it on him to make it happen. And then he had no intention because he was lying the whole time. And so he couldn't live up to my invisible fantasy expectation, and then I got mad at him. It's nothing to do with him. It was my fantasy projection the whole time. So I got to own that. And it kind of sucks to have to take responsibility and own this. Trust me. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to have to be a big girl and take responsibility for this, but that's the way I live. It's the only thing I can do. So once I actually got through all this, I came into so much compassion for myself. because I was running the Cinderella story. And if you're a woman listening and you've grown up in America or the world, you probably have some sort of Cinderella fantasy in your unconscious because we are inundated with it, right? This is what romantic comedies are all about. This is what love songs are about. It's just this, knight in shining armor comes and sweeps the woman, he picks the woman off of the horse and rides into it happily ever after. We're fed that from the time we're little girls and little boys. So it's not unusual that I grew up with a little bit of a Cinderella fantasy. But what was great about this experience with Antonio is I busted it. I was like, oh my gosh, there is no one coming to save me because I don't need saved. I had thought I needed this man to sweep me off my feet. I had thought I needed this love experience to make me happy. I had thought I needed all these things when really I just needed to come back to myself and come back to taking care of myself and knowing that I don't need someone to sweep me off my feet. No one has to save me. I don't need saved. I'm a capable, smart woman that can make decisions on my own and create a life that I'm really excited about, which I have. So, and I have so much compassion for this. So again, I have so much compassion for the human experience, how we make up these fantasies in our head, that we're fed these fantasies by books and songs and movies. And oh my God, it goes on and on. So I'm like, oh my God, of course I fell for it. Because I have compassion for that. I have compassion for anyone who falls for it because it's okay. So, the gratitude I have now for that experience is it really changed my life where I went, oh yeah, no one's coming to save me, but I don't need saved. So get in action, girl, and get your shit together and create the life you want, create the man you want, create the relationship and the lover, whatever it is. I got to have compassion for someone who lies so much that thinks they need to lie to be happy or to get their needs met. I got to have compassion for myself where I've lied a million times in my life. I got to have compassion for these unconscious beliefs and stories that have been driving my experience. So it taught me so much compassion. So I thank Antonio, even though he's a sociopath. But if I saw him today, I would be like, that wasn't cool what you did, but I get it. And I have compassion for it. And you changed my life in a very powerful way. And I'm, part of the woman I am today because of that crazy experience with Antonio. To hear some of your love stories. One thing that I am doing in Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander is we're going to have some listener Q&A. So, I've told you a couple really authentic, heartfelt moments in my life. I would love to help you with yours. So you can DM me on my Instagram at Arriane Alexander. It's ARRIANE Alexander, ALEXANDER. And you can DM me anytime. And please tell me when you're listening to the radio show. I would love to know your ahas from Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander. But I'm going to have listener Q&A. So you can DM me the situation in your life or the challenge or a question, and I will bring you on air and I will do a little laser coaching for you on the radio show. How exciting is that? So I'll keep talking about that. I'll definitely put that on my social media, but I can't wait to get some laser coaching with some of you on the air. It'll be really fun. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go say hello to some of our other friends at Fun for Life Radio. My amazing friend for many, many years, Pili Montilla, has a very cool show called Truth and Tunes. She is a music expert. She knows global music all over the world, and she interviews all kinds of cool guests about music, about how they create the music, their experiences in the music business, all kinds of cool things. So be sure to check out Truth and Tunes with Pili Montilla. And also my friend Jaxie Merrick has a new show called In Love with Jaxie Merrick. It's all about heartbreak and heart loving, just kind of this experience that I talked about with Antonio. I guess I better go listen to his show. But he shares his favorite love songs and heartbreak songs and getting together songs and all kinds of cool stuff and personal stories too. So go check out In Love with Jaxie Merrick. All right, my loves, I'll be back in just a minute and I have a new fun segment for us. That's my favorite things. Okay, back with Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander. New segment called My Favorite Things. I have a lot of my favorite things, but I'm going to share some of my favorite movies because we're coming up on the holidays. Christmas, Hanukkah, all of it. Okay, so few things that I've been watching, and I would love for you to tell me your favorite things too, your favorite movies. All right, there's a new movie on Netflix called The Prom, which I love. I've watched it twice. It's a musical with like Meryl Streep and James Corden and Nicole Kidman and Andrew Reynolds. And it's super cheesy and it's super fabulous. And it has a really great message because it's all about like gay and lesbian being able to be who they are. It's you can just Google the plot, but it's a girl who's a lesbian wants to go to her high school prom and the PTA won't let her go because wants to bring a date as another woman. And they're like, no, you can't. And so the whole story kind of begins with that basically. And the music is great. It's so fun. It's so like sparkling and splashy. And it's so heartfelt. I mean, I laughed, I cried. I love the message of equality for all and like love who you want to love and be who you want to be authentic in who you are. So Ryan Murphy directed this movie called The Prom. Side note, I've been in 2 of Ryan Murphy's TV shows. If you don't know, I'm also a working actor. I kind of forget to talk about that sometimes. But I was in The People vs. O.J. Simpson that Ryan Murphy produced and directed. And then I was also in American Crime Story Versace. So that's I'm basically, a few people away from Ryan. We're kind of BFFs. I mean, basically Ryan Murphy and I are like BFFs. That's just what I wanted to share here. So I love The Prom. Very, very cute. Great message, great music, very fun, just cheesy enough that you'll love it. All right, let's talk about Christmas movies. What are your favorite Christmas movies? I have 3 on my list. Okay, last night I just watched Bad Moms Christmas. I know it's an old movie. I think it's from like 2017. It was so funny. I was laughing out loud so much because it's so many fun, great cast. The cast is extraordinary, great actors. There's so many one-liners in there. I just laughed so much through the whole thing. And it was exactly what I needed. It was just a funny, light, ridiculous Christmas movie. And I'd never seen it. So Bad Moms Christmas, I say go watch that. Now, let's talk about my 2 favorite movies for Christmas. Are you ready? Drum roll. Here's number 2. Number 2 favorite movie for holiday. Love Actually. I know it's not unique. A lot of people love Love Actually, but I watch it every Christmas. There's 2 movies I watch every Christmas. I watched it the other night. I laughed. I cried. I do every time. You know what I love about Love Actually? Is that it doesn't wrap everything up with a bow. I'm going to say it now, and you're probably going to be like, what? I hate romantic comedies. I hate romantic comedies because this is the thing. They feed us in the bullshit of like what love is supposed to be like. You race through the airport, you like break up and then you race through the airport and then you tell someone you love them and then they're like, oh, okay, everything's fine. Sure. Like, no, that's not life. And so they have messed us up in the head. So I do not like romantic comedies. Love Actually has some parts of the movie that are wrapped up in a bow, but not all of them are wrapped up with a bow. And I love that because it brings a little bit of realness into the experience of a darling Christmas movie. But it doesn't it's not like, it's just, but it's about love. It's about the truth of love, how different relationships work and how people get together and how people get confused in love and how people don't want to be vulnerable in love. And I just love it. I just love Love Actually. I love Love Actually. So that's my number 2 movie. Okay, you ready for number 1? Okay, big drum roll here. Da, 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 da. Number 1 favorite movie might be my favorite movie of all time. Elf. Yes, I said Elf. Okay, can we talk about Elf? Can we talk about what a genius Will Ferrell is? I mean, I laugh so hard. Please tell me you love Elf too, because I was with a friend yesterday and she was like, I don't really like Elf. And I'm like almost spit out my water. I was like, I'm sorry, what? She goes, it's kind of slapstick, isn't it? I'm like, I don't really know what slapstick is. I just know what funny is. And I'm like, it's funny. I don't know if it's slapstick, but it's funny. And I couldn't believe someone didn't like Elf. Okay, it just brings me so much delight and joy to watch Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf have so much naivete and so much joy in the small things when he gets to New York City, of just the wide-eyed wonder and awe that I can certainly take for granted, living in Los Angeles and, I've traveled all around the world, but I can definitely take things for granted. And to see the world through Buddy the Elf's eyes, it's so delightful how he gets excited about a cup of coffee and a piece of pizza and like escalators and revolving doors. And it's so fun and delightful to watch. And Will Ferrell is just, in my eyes, he's just a comedic genius. And then at the end, when everything like comes into place, I'm just bawling my eyeballs out because it just is like the Christmas spirit. It's Christmas and I want to be in the Christmas spirit. So I could watch that movie over and over and over again. I laugh the whole time. And then I always cry at the end because it's so sweet. So those are some of my favorite things this week. The Prom movie on Netflix, Bad Moms Christmas, which I think is also on Netflix, Love Actually, and Elf. I think I'm going to watch Elf tonight. That's going to be my thing tonight for Christmas. So tell me what your favorite holiday movies are. DM me again on Instagram at Arriane Alexander. And also send me questions. Send me challenges in your life. Tell me what's happening. And I will have you on for listener Q&A, which will be super, super fun. And we'll do some coaching on the air. All right. That's a wrap for my holiday version of Rock Your Life with Arriane Alexander. Have a great holiday. Whatever you're doing, whether you're at home, by yourself, whether you're with your family, whether you're traveling, whether you're not. I'm not traveling, but there's still a lot to be grateful for. There's still so much to be grateful for. And just remember, if there's any challenges that you're going through right now, everything is for your highest good. And there's always something on the other side, and you can trust that. I love you so much. Be sure to follow me at Arriane Alexander on Instagram, and also follow Fun for Life Radio on Instagram and Dash Radio on Instagram, because we have all kinds of cool things happening at all times. All right. I love you so much. Happy holidays. Cheers.